A few days back, the Israelis released footage of Palestinian fighters going towards an Israeli tank and exploding it. Now, and that was in Jabalia, but it was in the northern part of Gaza. Today, the Palestinian resistance released a video of this operation, which was a combination between several resistance groups inside of Gaza who carried out this ambush in Jabalia, where they, again, preparing their own weapons. And by the way, the Palestinian resistance denied that they're getting any sort of smuggling from Egypt or anything a couple of days ago. They said we're functioning with what we have. And yet again, another sign of, you can call it a divine involvement. I don't know what it is exactly, but these people are managing to fight Israel with whatever they have. We don't know exactly how they're managing to do it despite all of this destruction, but they're continuing. And they're saying we will never be defeated. And here they're showing another video of them targeting Israeli tanks in Jabalia, already destroyed Jabalia, when Israel already published the video before. Let's have a look exactly at what the Palestinian resistance does, and we'll provide more input on this video.
بتعدي على بلاد ما نتفضاش إلهم. تعالوا تعالوا.
So as we can see, the Palestinian resistance fighters moving there freely and even recording the camera. You can see, by the way, the people are starving like the population. All of them are skinny and thin, but all of that didn't take away clearly from what they're publishing any of their determination to fight the Zionist depraved terrorists inside of Gaza. They went on to continue this operation by following, and this is, by the way, what Israel published previously. This is what the Israeli broadcasting published, this, of the Palestinian resistance fighter running towards the tank and planting a handheld device on a tank and running away and exploding it. In clearly an engineered thing in Israel to try and apply pressure on the government to reach a ceasefire, because Israel never used to do this before. They never published, it's as if nothing happened. You know, they were being slaughtered in Gaza since the beginning, but it's as if nothing happened. You know, whenever they need to confirm something, they will confirm. If it's inevitable, for example, today, there was another serious security incident in Khan Yunis and multiple operations in 4 parts of the Gaza Strip, with the Palestinian resistance landing heavy blows on the child-killing Zionists in Gaza. This has been published by the Israeli media, clearly in an attempt to apply pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu to reach a ceasefire, because that's it, they gave up. Now, there's nowhere to go, really. I mean, the Israeli IDF chief of staff is saying we're accomplishing nothing, people are getting lost, and, you know, please get us a deal. Of course, he's saying, you know, we will continue to increase the attacks and all the types of garbage, you know, that they constantly spew, when they haven't been able to do anything against the Palestinian fighters in 21 months of full-blown barbarism and genocide and acts worse than any medieval terror you have ever thought of. I mean, Satan himself wouldn't think of what the Israelis have done in Gaza. Backed by, of course, you know, the establishments that we know, and with, of course, the lack of action of the Arab regimes. Everyone knows that very well, from the close to the far off. Today, even the Palestinian Authority, headed by Abu Mazen, the big traitor, they prevented a protest to stop the genocide in Gaza, in Ramallah. They banned people from protesting. And here, by the way, the Palestinian resistance fighters continued to target 3 other Zionist terrorists, and with direct, like, zero distance, and they were heard shouting after they targeted them. Let's have a look. Whenever these people are faced by a Palestinian resistance fighters, they start fighting like sheep, and they probably fill up their diapers with you know what. I don't know if they had any, because they're probably running out. They need more supply now. Probably get some from China. Anyway, you get the message. 21 months in, the Zionists are getting a heavy beating from the Palestinian resistance. And that's what's leading, by the way, anything to do with any potential to de-escalate. That's the first and foremost thing. If there was no resistance in Gaza, there wouldn't be any talk about anything. Israel would have done whatever it wanted. It would have already expelled the population. No one would talk. But because there are people who are still preventing them from accomplishing their mission of total control in Gaza, that's why they still talk. Otherwise, why would they even talk? So the Palestinian side, funny enough, alongside the Israeli public, in their majority, by the way, are looking to end the war. So the majority of the people, both in Gaza and in Israel, want to end the war. Regardless of the view, what they view, do they legitimize? No, that's a separate story. They want to end the war. Today, there were more protests, by the way, in Israel, and the momentum is getting bigger, which explains Netanyahu's escalation in Syria, by the way, and maybe a sign that he might try and do something else. But there were more protests in Israel today, with thousands of people marching towards the American embassy. You can see American and Israeli flags, because they know that the American administration can apply pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu to stop the genocide. And their concern now, in their own words, and in the words of the families of the prisoners of war and their representatives, they want an all-out deal. That's what they want. And the protest was for an all-out deal. People saying, stop this politics, stop playing with the lives of the people. One of the family members of a prisoner of war in Gaza said that there shouldn't have been one Israeli soldier even scratched to get the people back, which is, by the way, which could have happened, by the way, because the Palestinian resistance already offered Israel previously to have a deal, have an all-out deal, in return for a ceasefire. That's it. We're not going to continue the operation. We'll have a deal. You return our prisoners. You will return yours. We'll call it a day. Israel, of course, did not want that. Benjamin Netanyahu started the genocide campaign. And we are where we are at the moment. But clearly, he doesn't have a mandate. He have a very small minority government now, with members resigning from the government, and a threat to totally collapse the government, something could be imminent, by the way, because there is no conscription law, and many who are still in the government are causing a lot of problems and headaches for Benjamin Netanyahu. But again, I spoke about multiple times the fact that Netanyahu could actually eventually get to a deal just before the Israeli Knesset breaks, because then he could basically have no headache from his extreme elements, or like, there is no, like there's extreme and there's no extreme, all of them are extreme, but the more extreme elements inside of his government to try and reach a ceasefire, and they wouldn't be able to challenge him if there would be any sort of ceasefire. In the meantime, Trump is saying that a ceasefire in Gaza is going to happen very soon. How is a ceasefire going to happen very soon? Well, Donald Trump, he clearly has some information, or he has made a deal with Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's saying with confidence today that 10 more hostages, according to him, will be released very soon. Again, how soon, where from, what's gonna happen exactly? What is that? So what could that mean exactly? That could mean that Donald Trump already made that deal with Benjamin Netanyahu to have that ceasefire agreement to begin potentially in the beginning of August or towards the end of July, and get the temporary deal going. Temporary deal whilst providing certain guarantees to the Palestinian side that there will be talks to completely end the war, because the Palestinian resistance will not enter any sort of ceasefire, according to them, without any confirmed guarantees that there will be an ending to the war. And we heard, of course, previous reports that Donald Trump himself will be guaranteeing any sort of ceasefire. Israelis are saying, of course, as usual, Hamas is obstructing the progress. But hey, we're talking about pathological liars at the end of the day, and they lie more than they breathe. Therefore, we can't take that seriously, because it was only Benjamin Netanyahu who has been obstructing a deal for a very long time, since the beginning. And that's not something like that others say. But Israelis say that too. They say that Benjamin Netanyahu has been the man who prevents and has prevented the ceasefire from the beginning. In the meantime, and in another very big example of the state of lawlessness that we're living in, a British Israeli solicitor, clearly on behalf of Netanyahu in Israel, is telling the ICC chief prosecutor, who was already threatened, by the way, by so many people. He was threatened by David Cameron, he was threatened by senators in the United States, he was threatened by other Western leaders, as he said. But now a British Israeli linked with Netanyahu, advisor, is saying that this man you will be destroyed if you don't drop charges, and if you expand the charges to other people. Why? Because the ICC is looking to expand the wanted criminal list to, well, the other terrorists in Israel. It's not just Netanyahu and Gallant, it's everyone who has been involved in this. We have this report here in the Middle East Eye. ICC lawyer linked to Netanyahu advisor warned Khan to drop war crimes probe or be destroyed. And he's a British Israeli lawyer who met with the chief prosecutor in May. He said he made suggestions about Palestine case, but there was absolutely no threat. The report said the British chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court was warned in May that if arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant were not withdrawn, he and the ICC would be destroyed outright. The warning was delivered to Karim Khan by Nicholas Kaufman, a British Israeli defense lawyer at the court, who told Khan he had spoken to Netanyahu's legal advisor, and according to a note of the meeting lodged on file at the ICC and seen by the Middle East Eye, was authorized to make him a proposal that would allow Khan to climb down the tree. He told Khan to apply to the court to reclassify the warrants and underlying information as confidential. Typical Zionism, you know. Let's do the dirty work in the dark. We don't want anything to be clear. That's how Western establishments protected Israel this whole time, and how Zionists with an ounce of a brain used to operate up until Netanyahu came and his ministers to operate, that's it, in the open and tell people exactly what they want to do, rather than, you know, whitewash things, hide behind curtains. That's the typical Zionist trait, you know. Oh, keep them confidential, right? Keep them classified so that people don't know our garbage, you know. Let's continue with our garbage in the dark, and we can talk our way about that. Maybe we'll offer you a few million here and there. They tried the carrot and stick with him, of course, and after he denied to drop the charges, what they do, they started to pressure him more. Threats against his family. Now this new threat that he will be destroyed. But before that, they started to fabricate sexual charges against him. and he had to take indefinite leave. Indefinite, as in on a definite break from his job. And according to this lawyer, keeping it confidential, right, would allow Israel to access the details of allegations which it could not do at the time, and challenge them in private without the outcome being made public. Of course, why should it be made public? You know that these people slaughter children. Why should it be made public? Let's keep everything hidden. But Kaufman warned that if it emerged that the chief prosecutor was applying for more arrest warrants for far-right ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich over their promotion of illegal Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank, then all options would be off the table. We clearly have a direct threat here, and it didn't end there. It was crowned with this: they will destroy you, and they will destroy the court. Wow. And Khan was there with his wife. Clearly the man wants evidence with him so that he doesn't say, oh, it's just me. Look, my wife was listening too. Who also attended the meeting. Both understood this to be a threat. Well, of course it's a threat. I mean, how else can you understand it? According to the note of the meeting seen by the Middle East Eye, Kaufman spoke with the Middle East Eye. Wow. I do not deny that I told Mr. Khan that he should be looking for a way to extricate himself from his errors. Ooh, how arrogant. I am not authorized to make any proposals on behalf of the Israeli government, nor did I. Of course you didn't. You know, again, you know, everything in U-turns and upturns, and, you know, to try and cover their backs. You're a Netanyahu-linked solicitor operating from Britain. Well, what are you talking about exactly? Kaufman said he had told Khan that he feared that bringing more arrest warrants would encourage further U.S. sanctions that would risk destroying the court. And that adopting a policy like Samson and the bringing of the whole court down on him and his employees would not serve the purpose for which the court was conceived. Is anyone asking a question how a country, a small little tiny genocidal entity, apartheid entity, racist supremacist entity, is constantly talking about a Samson option, which is basically destroy everything, and they have nuclear bombs? And is anyone worried about that? Or is that also part of, you know, the values that they represent? Is that okay? Or is that not okay? Or is it, you know, selective okayness? Or, you know. Netanyahu's office, of course, did not respond. They continued here. At the time of the meeting, Khan was facing investigation over sexual misconduct. They're talking about the claims of sexual misconduct. 2 weeks later, Khan stepped down on indefinite leave following the publication. That's previously. Clearly, we have a man here working on behalf of a wanted war criminal, going to the ICC and outright threatening to destroy the court.